your keynote speaker, CCLC sponsors, and the man that knows all there is to share on hybrid working, Paul Whymark, COO Sensee.
Good morning and welcome to Contact Centre Leaders Convention 2022. I have great pleasure in welcoming this morning Mr. Paul Whymark, COO at Sensee. It's a real pleasure to welcome you to Contact Centre Leaders Convention this morning, Paul, and we so look forward to you taking us through the piece that Sensee are bringing to Contact Centre Leaders Convention around the theme this year, which is the transformational contact centre, and how Sensee really have developed the whole transformational piece when it comes to hybrid working. It's been a significant time for you as a business, and I just wondered whether you'd like to give us an intro this morning in terms of welcoming everybody to CCLC.
Yeah, thank you, Jane. It's a real pleasure to be with you this morning. We were trying to do this face to face, but COVID got in the way there. But I'm glad that we've been able to do this over Zoom as well. And thank you for the invite, and thank you for allowing Sensee to share a little bit of what we think about in terms of home working and hybrid working.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know our audience today and those that join along the way will gain a lot from your insight this morning, Paul. So yeah, despite the challenges, it's great to have you with us. Let's kick off this morning. Clearly, we're now entering a period where organisations are looking to move business as usual post-lockdown. And for most, that means moving to some form of hybrid working model. What sort of hybrid models have you seen companies adopt so far, Paul? Because you have a real sort of pan-industry view on this.
Yeah, there's a number of different models that people have taken on board, Jane. I think you've got this sort of extreme hybrid, which is the sort of what I would call the forced hybrid model. So you will have people who are told, these are the days you are coming to the office. These are the days that we want you to work from home. That could be to maximize space. So I kind of do see that. Obviously, contact centers may have shrunk over the last few years. They may have sold off some of the land or the office space that they were operating in, and therefore have to find a way to accommodate both workers in the office and working from home. Or you've got the more extreme flexible. So it's kind of like, well, you can do what you want. You know, if you want to come to work, come to work. We've got a desk for you. If you want to work from home, work from home. That's complex because, of course, how do you know how many people are going to turn up on which day and how you're going to make your home working and your hybrid model? And somewhat the chaotic nature of that could be quite challenging. But I think the important thing to think about, Jane, is what do the contact center staff want? So what do they want out of this? And is kind of either the sort of free-for-all version going to be suitable for everybody? Or is actually that version which is, I'm telling you when you're going to come in, is that going to be ideal? So there's some real challenges there in terms of how businesses will manage a kind of whole world of employee engagement, employee well-being, whilst also looking after things like, you know, property and management and how you understand, you know, the facility side of things as well.
Absolutely. That certainly resonates with what we're hearing, Paul. Our members are reporting that retention is a priority and recruitment is difficult, and that's across the UK. With frontline managers and advisors experiencing working from home during lockdown, many for the first time, it would seem that people are increasingly demanding this flexibility moving forward. Do you think that working from home and flexibility go hand in hand, Paul?
Not in every case, Sir James. So what I've seen is most organizations have gone down the route of whatever your shifted work was when you were working in the contact center, in the actual office, the bricks and mortars, has just transposed across to how you are now going to be working from home. So if you want the traditional contact center shifts, 8-4, 9-5, 10-6, etc., that's exactly the same shift pattern that you would work from home. And I think people are missing a trick here. One of the things that we've seen at Sensee, and survey that we did at the end of last year, is that particularly between the 18 to 34 age group, which is the predominant amount of people working in contact centers, they want flexibility now. They've kind of experienced it a bit as a result of COVID. And they're saying, actually, I want a work-life balance now. I want to have some time that is for me and some time that is for work, but I don't want to be constrained between that sort of 8.5-hour shift pattern that you used to give me before. Why can't I come in at 8 o'clock in the morning, do a few hours, and then have some time to myself, and then come back and work later? And that sort of flexibility is becoming a really important driver in terms of people's decision choices of, do I stay with this organization or do I move to somewhere new that gives me that degree of flexibility?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as we move forward into the new norm, Paul, then we're seeing more and more of this, certainly around attracting a person or attracting talent to the business. And it starts to reflect really a certain type of person who is comfortable to work from home. Do you think, and this might be a little bit unfair, but are you starting to see that there is a certain profile that we should best recruit for a person who wants to work from home? Is that starting to come through in your business, Paul?
Yeah, Jane, we've been working from home for 17 years now. So it's not a new thing for us. It's something that we've been almost pioneering, actually, amongst one of the first organizations to say that our preference, in fact, our only way of working is working from home. Yeah. And our recruitment strategy hasn't changed in terms of what was pre-COVID and what is now post-COVID, or in this sort of returning back to office period. And there are a number of things that have to be right for somebody working from home. Let's not, say that somebody who is ideal for a contact center role in the office is going to be suitable always for a role from working from home. So the things that you need to look for are resilience. So it is, you are alone, okay? I'm sitting in my home office here. There is nobody around me, okay? There is nobody I can have a little bit of support to the left or to the right of me. So you've got to have a degree of resilience. You've got to be a self-starter, because you are going to get from your wherever your breakfast table to your office, probably the shortest commute you could ever have, but you've got to have that self-starterness to say, right, I'm going to move into that space, because nobody is going to be kind of tapping you on the shoulder to say, where are you? You've got to do it yourself. Now, of course, the contact center technology will still be there, the ACD systems to know whether you've logged in, etc. But you've got to do it yourself. You also need, I think, a little bit of IT savviness. So it is equipment that's obviously sitting at home. You're not going to have, somebody from the IT help desk wandering around your house to come and replug in a cable or tell you why one of your monitors has stopped working. Of course, there can be support lines and things like that, but being able to do the basics in terms of the diagnostics of maybe why some of your equipment's not working. I'm no IT expert, but I think you just turn it on and turn it off again, and you sort of thumbs up and off you go. Yeah. But all of those elements, it means that the way we approach it is we do a lot more in terms of personality profiling and psychology profiling to understand the type of person that is right for working from home, and to be very mindful It's not just about good contact center skills, everything around customer and empathy and all of that stuff. That's a given. It's this other element of that ability to work from home and have that resilience to be able to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And resilience, as you mentioned, is key, especially when we're looking at the increase in demand from our respective customers as well. So it's not, shall we say, the easiest of considerations to take on board. Do you think organisations will need to pay more to attract home workers, Paul?
I don't think so, actually. So if you approach back to that level of flexibility, so if you are going to offer somebody the ability to self-select the hours that they're going to work, have that sort of in-out type mentality of work a bit, break a bit, work a bit, break a bit, that actually is something, as I said, people are crying out for. And it's that which I think is a bigger driver than, say, an increase in wage. Now, we'll all see, we've seen it already with the changes both at the government national wage level and also at the real living wage level. There's quite a high rate, increase in terms of wage inflation. And I expect that will continue into next year as well. But I don't think you need to differentiate between that of a home worker and that of an office worker.
No. And you mentioned, increasing costs of living and just the sheer cost of fuel to get back and forth. At the moment, it's a real opportunity for businesses to consider offering such flexibility. And I guess.
So Jane, just to pick up on that, I was working it out yesterday. So if the average commute that somebody works to drive to work is 30 minutes. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
That will cost you in a year, at the price of fuel today, around about £800 a year just in fuel alone. So that is going to go up. So that's a significant hit that you will take if you are a office worker, and again another real benefit in terms of home working. Why that's
I was thinking the same yesterday, Paul, as I filled my car. I thought, crikey, that is a hit. And to absolutely be able to work from home and have the flexibility that goes with that is, I believe, a real hot tip for businesses moving forward to encourage talent and for people to really seriously consider working from home, along with all the other pieces that you've just said. But finally, on this theme, can you have that flexible, choose your own hours approach and still meet that inbound demand? Or do you think, Paul, there is a compromise to be made? Because we have had several detailed conversations around demand and the high demand there is. Can that work, that flexibility, Paul?
Yeah, so I mean, the way we operate at Sensee is we have a piece of software that we use. It's called Team Tonic, and that enables the self-scheduling to work. Now, in reality, you are never going to be able to say, oh, these are the hours that I'm prepared to work. I'll come in at 9, I'll finish at 10, I'll be back at 11, I'll come, 12:30, can have my lunch break, etc. But what we do is we work out that demand schedule. We then publish that out to our frontline agents, and then they can select the hours, but it's the hours that are available. So you get pretty much the full contact center day, and you start with the basis of these are the hours I'd like to work. And then you have to probably pull back a bit and say, okay, I've got some hours here that aren't ideal, but I've got the majority that are. And we work to the basis of around about 75 to 80% of the hours that somebody wants to work are the hours that they end up working. So there is a degree of flexibility there, but it is not obviously 100%. That utopia of turn up when you want type thing is not going to work because of the demand, as you say, that comes from customers. However, that is still infinitely better. 30-minute commute, park my car, 8 hours work, you tell me when I come in, and then, I work that shift pattern, and then I drive home afterwards. That whole working pattern, I think, is going. And unless businesses embrace this change, the chances are that their employees are going to vote with their feet, because they're going to seek that level of flexibility that other organizations are going to start to be able to offer.
I think that's going to be absolutely key. I think the next 18 months are really going to see that come to fruition as well, for the reasons that we've just spoken about. I think it will be a real decision that companies will have to really embrace, and also for the reason of retaining their respective workforce and to engage with them. And that's what I'd like now to move on to, is talk about engagement, and in particular problems that organisations have experienced, Paul, in keeping their working from home workforce engaged, motivated, productive. Do you have a couple of top tips perhaps that we could share with our audience on CCLC today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think you've absolutely hit the nail on the head. Engagement is key. It always has been, and it is really key in terms of operating from a work from home environment as well. And I talked about earlier about there's nobody around. Well, you mustn't actually have that sense when you're working from home. And we have a tool, it's called Live Desk. It's our collaboration tool. And everybody, when they start their day, when they log on to their systems at home, they come straight through into our Live Desk environment. They can see everybody else who is on shift or on, ready to take calls at that same moment of time. They can have a little bit of social chat. So if they're in 5 minutes early, why not pick up and talk about, what was on TV last night, and just engage with other people and have that conversation. It's also the key part of our Live Desk environment is the support. So we have our SMEs, or our experts in the field, if you like, the classic floor walker who would have come along if you raised your hand. And that is where I think the challenge comes, because if you're at home and you think there's nobody there, or your idea of support is a telephone helpline, which I've seen, so you have to put a customer hold and dial somebody else, or your support is Teams, which is okay, but it's not ideal in terms of pulling together everybody into one space. That support infrastructure, I think, is the biggest driver of disengagement, because if you haven't got it, then you feel alone, you feel isolated. And of course, you're the one on the end of the phone talking to a customer, having them have a go at you and say, well, you should know this information. Why don't you know my answer? I need that help. Having that infrastructure put in place to make sure that your agents working from home always feel supported is key.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've had a lot of feedback around that piece, the challenges that go with it, because not every contact centre, Paul, has the benefit that you guys have with Live Desk. But I'm just reading into that, communicate is absolutely high on the agenda. So a couple of specifics for you. Firstly, let's say that you've issued a communication in the virtual workplace, say about a process change or a general update. How do you follow up to ensure that this has landed?
Yeah, I mean, that's true of whether you're working in an office or working from home. The method of communication that I guess everybody sort of turns to is email. And the sort of joy of email is, you've sent it out to everybody. The absolute pain of it is you have absolutely no idea if A, people have read it, or B, they actually understand, or there's an ability to ask further questions. So again, through our Live Desk tool, we can publish information. We can say, here is the latest update. So we'll have a particular frame within Live Desk that says, a process change. If a customer phones up and asks XYZ, this is what you now do, or you now need to go through this particular channel or this particular process to facilitate that customer's query. And you can then record that everybody says, yes, I've read this, I've seen it, and I understand it. And you've also got the instant support infrastructure to have and make sure I understand it there. The joy of that sort of live desk tool as well is that it works just as well in home as it does in the office. So you've kind of got the hybrid ability of bringing everybody into that one space, as opposed to a separate communication going out through your home working channel and a separate communication going out through your office-based channel.
Yeah, fabulous. And I love the piece there that you've got the opportunity to review, and that is key. And feedback, which, moving on to the training element, if I may for a moment, Paul, we've got a lot around in the industry around developing our incumbent staff, again around that engagement piece, and quite frankly, because individuals haven't had any training and development for some time. So how does Sensee keep people engaged with training, especially perhaps on the longer courses, to make sure that everybody is participating and getting the most out of that respective course? Can you give us a few tips around that piece?
Yeah, so training in a virtual world has to be done slightly differently. So we do enforce a couple of things. One, we always have our cameras on. If you want to engage with people, seeing faces, being with people, seeing who else is in your training room is key. And therefore, we have a mandatory camera policy. Now, there are times maybe we'll say, right, you're going to go away, do some e-learning now, you can switch your cameras off. But when you've done this, show us that you're ready. We call it green tick. So they would click their little green tick to say, I'm ready. And then we will go back into a session, which we bring people back in. And we'll facilitate that again through with cameras on as well. You got to mix it up. Okay, I think that's really key. And we've seen, classrooms do this as well. Why shouldn't you mix it up in terms of the virtual? So, do your virtual whiteboards, be interactive with people. At times say, right, we're gonna do mics on now. So mics are a little bit challenging. If you've got, say, 15 people in the room and there's lots of noise, you may, mute everybody's mics, but you may also want to say, right, we're now going to have a debate. We're going to, whitelist, write down, what are the, top 10 things that customers might complain about today or stuff like that, and engage and get people to respond back. Use all the tools that you would have done in the classroom, in the traditional sense, and find ways to make them work just as well in a virtual contact center classroom at the same time.
Yeah. Super advice there, Paul. Thank you. I also would like you to touch, finally, I think, on how you would, any thoughts about how feedback is collected and acted upon in a working from home setting, whether that be training or operational, because that seems to, in the mix of things, get a little bit fragmented. Could you give us any tips around that, please?
Yeah, in terms of training, it is important always at the end of every week, we do a survey to check in. How was the training today? How was your trainer? How did you do? Was there any areas that you didn't understand? Is there anything that, you want us to go back over? So we constantly engage on a weekly basis to make sure that people's both engagement levels are there, but also that is there anything that we've missed? Is there anything that they want to call out and understand? So we will do a weekly training survey. In terms of in the contact center, so once you've gone live, we actually do a weekly survey there. We call it Week in 8 Questions. It's quite simple. At the start of the week, we ask them just to complete a survey for the previous week. It will just check in how engaged, how is your team leader, how is the live desk operating in terms of the instant response of getting support when you needed it. And also we ask about the shifts. So did you get the shifts that you wanted, and what percentage of shifts did you get that you were comfortable with and you felt met your requirements? And those weekly data, we analyze it by our different campaigns. Obviously, being an outsourcer, we've got a number of different clients. We check that there's no variance between our clients or across those different campaigns, as well as the individuals across a campaign. So is there someone who's scoring proportionately low? It flags then through to the team leader to say, there may be a little bit of an issue with this particular home agent at your next one-to-one, or maybe you need to engage earlier than that. Have a conversation, because these things are showing that they've dipped slightly in their score to where they've been before. It is also for us one of the ways that we identify if there are any mental health issues. So we've trained all our leaders in mental health, and we do it slightly differently because, of course, we are not going to get as many visual clues as you may get with a face-to-face environment, and is looking for the nuance of difference. So somebody who's maybe, I don't know, maybe quite joking most of the time, but maybe they've just slightly dipped again. What can you see that is different about this person that you're seeing on a camera today that you need to pick up and have a conversation with them about?
Yeah, absolutely. What I particularly resonate there with Paul and welcome is that constant, if you like, 360 piece that you are asking on a weekly basis, what is going on within the workplace, and you're able to assess how, inverted commas, engaged your work from home workforce is. That's a commitment, but we would just do that in our stride were we in a bricks and mortar environment, because it would be literally there in front of us. You could benchmark that, you get the nuances that go with it. But, to do that on a weekly basis is a commitment. And I think you've opened up a whole area of opportunity for businesses today, touching on that point. Admittedly, a commitment, but a really good one in terms of making sure that their respective teams are engaged. So thank you for that. You've started to touch on our final topic, which is looking after the health and well-being of remote workers. We say remote workers, everybody needs to be treated fairly and consistently, both home and office workers. So how is well-being assessed and any underlying issues identified? Because again, taking it a step away from the immediate environment, you've touched on it, but is quite a challenge.
Yes, I mean, and as I said, you have to, I think, work harder for a remote worker, a home worker, in terms of identifying well-being and mental health. So we, as I said from the very start, we're very much about engaging with our colleagues. So whether it be one-to-ones, whether it be coaching sessions, whether it be team meetings, whether it's that classroom, we always say it's mandatory that you have your camera on. That enables us to pick up a lot more visual clues than maybe if somebody said, I don't want to have my camera on today. That alone is an alert to say, what is going on here? What do I need to investigate? And then just, you can see it in people's facial expressions. You can see it in terms of the way they respond to your questions that you're having. And do it, you're analyzing this, if you like, over a lengthy period of time. So as I said, if you can see something in somebody's demeanor or the way they're behaving or their response to your questions, then it's time to start probing, start to understand a little bit more. We obviously train our guys to do this. We are also conscious that, we are maybe mental health in terms of first aiders. We are not mental health experts. So if we identify something, we will refer it. We will either do a referral where we ask the employee to go through our EAP program, or if we think there is a severe risk here, then we will actually do a referral directly as well. And we have processes in place right through to, if the extreme happens that we think we need to call an ambulance, we need to refer to a family member in this instance. Now they're the extreme, and in the most cases, you're having a good conversation with people, but you maybe just want to direct them to further support and help where professionals can kick in and really assist in that individual. But it's identifying it, that's key, and not letting it go, and making sure that you support that individual through whatever their challenges or issues that are there. The second thing, and I would say this is true of all contact centres, get to know your people. Get to know them, get to understand them, get to know what are their drivers, get to know what they do outside of work, get to know their family situation, etc., etc., and engage with them. And that way you build that bigger bond, that strength, that understanding. And the best leaders that you have, whether it be in home working or in contact centres, have really built that connection with their team and the people who are working alongside them.
Oh, absolutely. Hit the nail on the head. We've got to know our teams now more than ever. Leaders need to absolutely embrace that. It's not a token gesture. It's really getting under the skin of our respective teams and understanding the nuances that go with that. You've touched on it, Paul, but what leadership techniques do you promote at Sensee that help glue together your home working communities? Because I know you're particularly passionate about this.
Yeah, I mean, so we always try to promote from within. I think that's our first starting position. Working from home is really different. It is different in terms of working from a contact center. So if we can, bring on new agents, and then identify where there's talent, and then take them through a team leader development program, prepare them for leadership, identify them when there's an opportunity for them, and then support them in that leadership journey. I think that's really key. Plus, you can never kind of replicate that understanding of what it means to be a home agent working from home if you are a team leader who's kind of jettisons and comes straight into a home working environment. I think that the differences are really key. The other thing is, again, it's around all the skill sets that you would train across your bricks and mortars. So have a very strong coaching plan, and make sure that your teams your team leaders are supported and have a great knowledge of how to coach. I see it time and time again across contact centres up and down the country where, oh yeah, we have a great coaching culture, and it's not. It is, here are your stats, you're still not performing, when are you going to improve it? Tell. Where is that engagement? Where is that level? So we do spend a lot of time in terms of coaching our people to be able to coach and support our frontline agents in a proper coaching style.
Yeah, absolutely. Coaching all the way. However, a point there to mention is that investment in our team leaders, in our leadership team, is critical. And we must acknowledge that, we've expected a lot, and we've expected that over a very condensed period of time. We're now coming out of that. We've got to invest to make sure that the plaster isn't just still stuck on, that we can move forward in a logical and robust professional way and support our future hybrid working teams in the way that you've mentioned. And I guess the final point of our chat this morning, Paul, I'm going to ask you to perhaps look into your crystal ball. Do you think the hybrid working picture will be just as confused next year? Is developing the right hybrid model for your business still going to be possibly a let's sort of second see it type process, full of potential trial and error? What is your take on that?
Yes, Jen, I think actually that, the people will still want to have some form of working from home, whether that's 100% working from home, whether that's a hybrid model where they do, part office, part home. I think contact centres with that will actually reduce in size. So I think we'll see the footprint of contact centres in the UK will reduce. I think we'll see that with offices anyway, as people will adopt into this working from home mix as well. I think that there will still be challenges as well. So I mentioned earlier on this kind of forced working from home, working from office perspective. I don't think that's ideal. I think that for some people, the idea of working from home will not be right for them. They need the opportunity to be in contact centres, to be around people. For some people, they want the joy and luxury of working from home and don't want to have to spend 2 days a week commuting into an office. So I think those that continue down that more forced hybrid, which I can understand, as I said, from a building perspective, from a facilities management side, but I think the knock-on effect is, unless they can find something that gives that degree of flexibility, that gives the autonomy back to the agents to say, you make the choice about how you want to work, then they're going to be the ones who will A, have the attrition problem going forward, and B, will find it difficult to recruit, because where you get that flexibility, where you get that personal choice that people will want to make, they will be the organizations that will succeed in the future.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more, Paul, on the thoughts that you have shared with us this morning. On a personal note, thank you for joining Contact Centre Leaders Convention 22. We appreciate it greatly. We appreciate your support and sponsorship of the event, but more than anything, Paul, the ability to share your insight, valuable insight, with our audience today. Thank you so much. And I know our audience will look forward to seeing your top tips, which will be separate to this conversation. Take care, Paul. Thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Jay. Goodbye.